Well, you guys are back, so that must mean that you want to get some information out of me, and you have come to the right place. I am currently in what we call the music room in my house, which is really just a fancy name for a junk room. It does have guitars and speakers and TVs and guitar pedals and cases and an exercise bike, so there's a lot happening in here, but until we buy a house, which will hopefully be in the next few months, I don't really have a room to do this. So I'm trying to make the best of the space that I have, and you know what? It's just gonna have to be this for a little bit. And I think you'll get over it, because I'm having to get over it, and it's fine. I am excited to be filming my first episode. I filmed this about a week ago, 6 days ago, and I put it on my computer and immediately deleted it. I deleted it because I hated the way I looked and I hated everything about it, and you know, I think I needed to have that moment early on. I had it, I got over with, and now I'm here and I'm ready to tackle this again and just not be as critical as I was and whatever. I'm back. Sorry for the wait. Whatever. So for today's topic, pause, disclaimer. This topic is sensitive. It is something that a lot of people have opinions on, but not a lot of people like to talk about. It is a hot button topic, if you will. We will be talking about abortion in the form of the Reproductive Health Act, which was passed at the end of January by the state of New York. You might still be seeing this on social media, especially like Facebook, but I will say a couple weeks ago, I was seeing this all over my timeline. Many different opinions. It was definitely one of those things that you think, okay, somebody's not telling the right story here. Let's get down to it. So that is the topic for today, but I guess listener discretion advised if this is a topic that is sensitive to you, sensitive for you. The word abortion is going to be used a lot for sure, and it's not going to be talked about graphically by any means. It's just something to be aware of. So there you go. There's your disclaimer. This channel is not an opinion channel, as I've told you before. I'm not here to tell you my opinion. I'm not here to pick one opinion over the other. I am here to just give you information, obviously. So, in saying that, let's just kind of bring it in and remember the goal here, okay? Especially since we're talking about a kind of emotional topic. There's something wrong with my lip. The main issue with this topic is just the fact that it's an emotional topic. Obviously, I think everybody can relate to that in some capacity, but the goal here is not to be motivated by emotion. We're not motivated to change people's minds. That is not the goal here. So if you are here looking to get in an argument, please leave. Motivation is understanding. It's information. The motivation here is knowledge. So just keep that in mind, because whatever side you're on, you're going to be hearing things that you don't agree with. That's the point. Disagreeing is okay, and that's fine. So just keep that in mind. If I'm elaborating on the side that you don't agree with, don't get mad and shut the video off. It's gonna be fine. We're gonna get to everybody, I hope. So yeah, let's get this started so that I don't talk your ear off, which I feel like I've already done. Cool. So for those of you who don't really know what I'm talking about, the New York Reproductive Health Act, State Senate, abortion law, all this stuff. Let me bring it back, okay? My laptop's down here, so I'll be looking down a little bit. And you know what? I don't have no fancy monitor right here, so take what you can get, okay? The Reproductive Health Act, it passed in the New York State Senate with a 38 to 28 vote, and it was signed into law by Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democratic governor of New York. This was on January 22nd, so yes, I'm a little late here, it's mid-February, but again, it happened, and then I tried to film, and whatever, cool, I'm late. I'm sure you still have heard about this, regardless. So the way we're gonna lay this out is I am going to tell you just straight up what this law is and what this law says. And that's what we need to know before we do anything else. After we do that, I'm going to tell you the main points for each side, just kind of the main things that people are saying, and then we're gonna run over some of the arguments that these sides are having. Hopefully I don't think this will take too long, but that's the layout. Please leave any comments down below if there's something I could do to make this easier, something I could do to just kind of make this information more palatable, maybe not palatable, more absorbable. Just gonna stop. First things first, let's get the facts straight. We at least have the bill, the concrete bill that just got signed into law, so let's see exactly what it says. So let's talk about the motivation behind this bill. Let me read you this first thing, and then this first sentence will give you everything you need. The motivation here is dedication to comprehensive reproductive health care, which is a fundamental component of not only a woman's health, but any citizen's health, privacy, and equality. The motivation behind this law is comprehensive health care. State of New York is saying, hey, we're trying to make things available for our citizens in the best way possible, best quality possible, that kind of thing. This is a pro-choice law. When you talk about abortion, you got pro-life, those who are against abortion, and you have pro-choice, those who are for it in the case of women's rights, in the case of a right of a woman to have choices on what she's going to do with her body. The state of New York is saying, we want women to have safe and legal access to a medical procedure that is abortion. Really, that's all you need to know here as far as the motivation behind this law. Now, move on from motivation. What is the intention here? Before January 22nd, the abortion laws were concrete. They had been the same way for a long time. And some of the big things you should know is pre-Reproductive Health Care Act. Any abortion done by a doctor, a licensed doctor in New York, any abortion done after the 24th week of pregnancy was punishable up to 7 years in prison. So it was considered a felony. Unless the woman's life was in danger. But even then, even if the woman's life was in danger, you had doctors that were hesitant to really do anything, because if it was after the 24th week, I mean, really they were liable for anything that would happen there. And the idea of 7 years in prison, of being charged with a felony, I mean, that's a criminal offense, and they were running the risk regardless. Now, women can get an abortion under limited circumstances after the 24th week of pregnancy. Not only that, but with the abortion law changing, one of the amendments you're also seeing is that abortion is no longer treated as a criminal offense. It's treated under public health law, which is actually something that's common in most states. So now, if you're talking about an abortion in any capacity, it is not treated in the criminal code. It's not even in that vicinity. It is over here in public health law. Let's talk about this for a second. I read this bill. I sat down and I just read this bill, and it was a whole lot of legalese, and quite frankly, I'm glad I did it instead of you guys. So that's why you watch this channel, so that I can do that for you. You're welcome. Okay, anyways, I digress. Biggest addition. A licensed, certified, or authorized practitioner may perform an abortion in his or her lawful scope of practice according to the practitioner's reasonable and good faith professional judgment based on the facts of the patient's case. So what we're saying here is any practitioner who is licensed, who is certified and has kind of an abortion procedure in their scope of work, in their lawful scope of work, they can make the judgment and see the facts of the patient's case, see kind of the circumstances they're in. They can take that and decide whether or not it is best for the woman's health, for the woman's life, to abort a child. There are three things that give this practitioner, the green light to say, hey, we need to abort this child. The patient is within 24 weeks from the commencement of pregnancy. So if this is pre-24 weeks, a woman can have an abortion if it is threatening her life or health. The whole thing about this law is 24 weeks and after. This is the area that's being touched now. So pre-January 22nd, pre-Reproductive Health Act, before 24 weeks was not really an issue. That's not what we're looking at. We're looking at that last bit of the pregnancy, late-term pregnancy. You'll hear the term late-term abortions. This is what we're talking about. So again, 3 criteria, okay? If the patient is within 24 weeks, so we already know that, or There is an absence of fetal viability. You'll be hearing this a little bit too. They're saying if the fetus is not going to live outside the womb, or abortion is necessary to protect the mother's life and or health. So these are the three things that give a doctor or a practitioner kind of the ability to say, yeah, an abortion is something that's going to be needed, and they don't have any sort of worry of being charged with a felony later or criminal offense, anything like that. So that's the big one. That's the big thing you need to know about this law, is kind of what's being changed. There's also a lot of specific like criminal law and penal law that's being amended, so it's further defining homicide, abortion, related offenses. It's just kind of going into more detail on what defines that. So again, abortion was once held in as a criminal offense. Now it's going to be dealt with in public health law. That's something that we already discussed. This is probably the biggest thing about this law that you need to understand. So before January 22nd, in late term, an unborn child is protected under New York state law, unless the mother's life is in danger. With the amendment of the Reproductive Health Care Act, am I saying that right? It's the Reproductive Health Act. If I said that wrong before, sorry. With the Reproductive Health Act, you bring in health, the health exception. So it's not only that babies are now, protected unless the mother's life is in danger. Now it's unless the mother's health is in danger. So if you're not taking in any of what I'm saying, take that. Before, a child was protected unless the mother's life was at risk. Now a child's life is protected unless the mother's life is at risk or their health is at risk. Here's the big thing. A health exception can be pretty broadly interpreted. And now that that's being interpreted, it can be interpreted broadly. There are more practitioners that are now in the mix. Before the Reproductive Health Act, only a doctor could perform an abortion. Now it can be a midwife, it can be a nurse practitioner, a physician's assistant. Any licensed practitioner can perform these late-term abortions under the certain circumstances, but that now creates a larger group of people who can practice their professional judgment and kind of classify what health means. Okay, welcome back. My dogs are in here now. What are you doing? I don't know what happened with the camera, but guys, I'm so tired of camera issues. Regardless, the second half of all the footage I just did is gone, and I'm doing it again. But anyways, the camera died, I'm back. Hi. So, now with all of these professionals and all of their new judgment, they can determine if a mother's health is in jeopardy after the 24th week of pregnancy. That could mean a lot of different things. Somebody could put economic factors under health, they could put psychological factors, emotional factors, anything else than just the biological, physical factor we know to be health. So that's really something to consider when it comes to these big facts. That is a big change between 1970 to 2018 versus 2019. So if you don't take anything else out of this, please take that. That is really, really important to consider. Health is now a part of the conversation when it comes to the Reproductive Health Act. But of everything, that's really all we need to know. This bill was not very long, which was good for me, but that's really all it covers. It just covers what was in the abortion law in the state of New York before 2019 and what it's going to be now. Let's get into the sides and see for and against. First, let's talk about the proponents for the Reproductive Health Act. These are the guys that are excited about this law. They are pro-choice. They look at the interests of women's rights. And they were a part of the group that went ahead and lit the Freedom Tower in New York City, I think the Empire State Building, pink in honor of women's rights when this law was passed. I am now in the seat of the proponent. I will be speaking as a proponent of this law. So the big things to take away as a proponent of the Reproductive Health Act are the emphasis on women's rights, the importance of women's rights, and the importance of adjusting the current abortion law in the state of New York. Women's rights is probably the biggest emphasis when it comes to pro-choice. Women have the right to control their bodies. Women have the right to comprehensive reproductive health care, especially when it comes to family planning, and they do not need to be discriminated against for their choices when it comes to reproductive health care. I have a quote for you that really kind of encapsulates the proponent side and kind of where their minds sit in regard to this law and this issue. The right to decide when, whether, and how to have a child is fundamental to a woman's dignity and equality. This right affects every aspect of a woman's life: her economic status, her educational aspirations, her career goals, her health, and the well-being of her family. So again, a woman has the right to do whatever she wants to do with her body, and it is not up to the government to restrict any of those things. And that is the basis of why, really, this was some of the motivation of why this law even came to be in the first place, which we looked at when we looked at the law itself. But of course, this is very much a pro-choice kind of law. It's a step in the right direction for them. So a lot of these are going to overlap. And that's really the emphasis here, is the right of the woman to do what she feels is right. Now, go to the next point, really just adjusting some of the discrepancies that were coming up on the legal side. Really, the legal discrepancies we've already spoken about. These are the laws that kind of took abortion and put it under public health law versus the criminal code. That's those that are pro-choice and for this law, that's what they wanted. They wanted some of that red tape to be cleared so that access to safe and legal abortions could be seen. Side number 2. These are the guys that are against the Reproductive Health Act. They are pro-life. They are opposed to this law. I am now in the seat of the opponent. A couple points here. Those that are pro-life believe that a human life is formed at conception and through pregnancy into the rest of its life. So once a baby is conceived, that is a human life, and a human life should be treated as such no matter what age, no matter if in the womb or out. If I'm against this law, I believe in the human right, all human rights to live, and I believe in a family structure within our society. If someone is thinking that life begins at conception, then the act of willingly taking the life of an unborn child is murder. It's taking another human life. When you look at anything having to do with abortion, and you look at those that are pro-life, often you are drowning in a sea of emotion. For instance, I have a baby nephew, and I would do anything for my nephew. And the idea of anything happening to my nephew in the womb or out of the womb, I don't want to think about. So it makes sense that emotion would be tied to this. But I didn't want to come at you with just a ton of emotion because we've all seen it. So this quote specifically just shed good light on this view of those that are pro-life and against this law. Progress will be achieved when our laws and our culture once again value and respect each unrepeatable gift of human life, from the first moment of creation to natural death. Wouldn't that not make us the most truly enlightened and progressive state in the nation? So, I mean, it really is that simple. A human life is a human life, and it's a gift regardless, from conception on. That is the view. Next up, the family structure in society. Ben Watson, who either is or was a tight end for the New Orleans Saints, you should probably know that, but I don't, he came at this guns a-blazing when he found out that this bill was being signed into law. We should be supporting and encouraging the building of families, which are fundamental in any society. This is just a portion of his quote. He uses the words like evil and sad in the quote as well. I took that out. I'm not interested in the emotional side. But he is saying, as well as a bunch of other pro-lifers, they're saying, hey, the familial unit, the family, is what makes our society strong, and it's what basically makes our worlds go round. And if you're not supporting that unit and that structure, then we're basically doomed. That's what he's saying. Now, I know that people define family differently in our society today. I'm not getting into that. I'm just saying the unit, the family unit. I don't care what or who that consists of. So now we know what the bill looks like. We know exactly what's stated in there. We know what one side sees. We know what the other side sees, for and against. We're going to talk about just a few of the arguments, the big arguments that are coming out of, the two sides. And then we're going to wrap it up with some case studies for each side that kind of give you further insight into why people feel the way they feel, why they have the opinions they have. Arguments. This first one is the biggest one, and it's the one that I seriously want to touch on because I see the most miscommunication coming out of here and the most like corrupt information coming out of here. Those that are against are saying this law is promoting abortion for any reason in the state of New York. So now a woman can have an abortion for any reason at any time in her pregnancy. On the other side, they're saying that's not true. On the other side, they're saying, no, we're increasing access for safety and to promote comprehensive health care for women. I just want to highlight this. Nowhere in this bill does it say that a woman in New York can have an abortion at any time after her 24th week of pregnancy. Nowhere does it say that late-term abortion can happen in any circumstance. So a woman cannot just go to a doctor when she's 30 weeks pregnant and say, I don't feel like it anymore, I want to have an abortion. Now, where some of this is coming from is that now we talked about the health, including the that little health clause in the law. Before it was just if a mother's life was in jeopardy, now it's if a mother's health is in jeopardy. That really opens up the door to other reasons somebody might want to have an abortion and could legally have one. There are more opportunities, more options you have when it comes to having an abortion, but nowhere does it say any reason. You can have an abortion for any reason. So that just those two words, any reason, that needs to be taken out because that's not the case. Second little argument. If I am against this law, I am saying, okay, so you're so worried about the health of the woman, but now so many more people can perform the abortion procedure. So how is that going to be helpful for the mom? Now there's just more people who can do this. More opportunities to fail, I guess you could say, or to make a mistake. Those that are for, on the other side, are saying, no, the problem before was that we didn't have enough specialists. Only doctors could perform these abortions, and if it was late term, a doctor probably wasn't going to do it because they had so much legal red tape they would have to jump through, and they could be punished with a felony offense. They could be slapped with a felony offense. So then women were going, and they just want anybody to do the abortion so they could get it done. And again, that's where the access to safe abortions comes into play, or legal abortions. Now they don't have to worry, and they can go to somebody who is certified and licensed, and they don't need to look for these other situations that could probably cause them harm, short-term or long-term. The third one, and probably the most interesting to me, has to do with legal prosecution. Those that are against this bill are saying, okay, now that abortion is no longer handled under, the criminal law or under the penal code, if somebody is the victim of domestic abuse and they lose their baby because somebody killed their baby in a tussle, you can't prosecute them based on that because of this new law. So the people that are against this law are saying, no, justice for those people that have gone through this domestic violence and who have lost a baby because of it, now they will never get justice because in the state of New York, at least, they can't charge this person. Flip it over to the other side. They're saying there is enough prosecution in those kinds of areas where the abortion law doesn't really make much of a difference. This person's going to be brought to justice in a lot of other areas. In other words, if somebody is a victim of domestic abuse and they do lose their baby for, in whatever situation that was had, this person who committed the abuse, they're going to be prosecuted for a myriad of different things and will get a minimum of 25 years in prison. That one little piece, this person's not going to be prosecuted for that, but on this other side, all these people are going to be getting all these benefits to access these safe and legal abortions. We're not quite worried about it. So those are the main arguments. Those are the main things that you're seeing here. I'm sure there are some other ones. I'd be interested to hear other ones. But that's where we are so far. Let's wrap this up and talk about a few case studies for either side that might kind of open people's eyes a little bit. Okay, almost done. So there are two different kind of scenarios that I'm going to present to you. They are based on real cases, but I don't want to tell you, I'm kind of paraphrasing, so I don't want to tell you these are the legitimate facts of what happened. These are two, yes, legitimate cases that I have looked into, but I don't have them in front of me. So I'm just kind of give you these scenarios so that you can see, again, where both sides are coming from as far as why this law is either beneficial or why this law is detrimental. First, let's go to the pro side, the for RHA side. There was a situation that was highlighted in quite a few articles I read of a woman who basically had to travel cross country to get a late-term abortion done because her life was in jeopardy and the fetus was not going to be viable. So the story is that she was diagnosed with cancer at an early age and fought several different types. So she did chemotherapy, she did radiation, which unfortunately for a lot of people that go through that, they cannot have children. And she was one of them. Well, somehow later on, she did end up getting pregnant. And it wasn't until later in her term, close to 30 weeks, I believe, or at 30 weeks, that they realized that this fetus was not going to be viable. In the case of just the mother and her health, it was already jeopardized just from her past, but this could further jeopardize her life if she were to go through this pregnancy. She did decide that an abortion was going to be the best option for her, but she lived in New York and no doctor, because it was a late-term abortion, was going to touch it. So she, out of pocket, had to travel cross-country. She had to, her lodging, her food, all that stuff, her hospital bills. She had to deal with all of that just to get a safe abortion in this situation. So what people are saying is, okay, with this law, we're not going to have doctors that are hesitant to perform such necessary medical procedures. So in this case, they're saying that this was necessary because there was just so much going on with the pregnancy. There was so much wrong. And she already wasn't supposed to be pregnant. So there's a lot of special circumstances in that case. And it is a rare case, but it is a case nonetheless. That's definitely one of those things that people consider. So those that are pro-RHA are saying these kinds of situations can be avoided now because that abortion red tape isn't there. That criminal law enforcement is not there. Now let's go to the case for those that are against. Again, this is a real case, but I don't have the facts in front of me, so I'm not going to be quoting anything specific. But there was a woman in Brooklyn who was the victim of domestic violence, and in this specific case, she was pregnant during a tussle that she got into with her significant other, and her baby was killed. Baby was killed, and this was in the last year or two, but now with the passing of this law, and remember they're in Brooklyn, he's not going to be charged with homicide or any sort of murder charge or felony charge for the killing of the baby. She's basically saying, okay, so he's not going to be brought to justice for killing my baby. When it comes to seeking justice for something like that, domestic abuse in any case is awful and it's wrong. In this case, a baby was killed because of it. Like a pregnant woman, she lost her baby because of it. I mean, that's unfathomable. So I don't think it's surprising at all that she's seeking justice for that, specific part of it. But again, you're seeing those that are for RHA saying, okay, well, he's going to get prosecuted. Like, he's going to get brought to justice. He's going away. Regardless of this one little kind of trivial, I think they're probably seeing it as like a trivial piece of prosecution. That's not really going to make a dent because he's going away regardless. In the case of those that are against it, they think that somebody who is abusive like that should be hit with every single count, every single charge that they possibly can. So those are the two case studies there. I think it kind of rounds things out and it shows you where both are coming from. You saw the law, you saw the sides, and you saw more of the sides. So there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope that you're leaving this video just feeling like you know a little bit more. I don't want to say you're more informed, but that makes sense because I'm misinformed. I want you to be more informed. I just feel like that sounds kind of corny. But alas, it is what it is. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Please leave me feedback. Leave me stuff down in the comments telling me if I can spread this out a little easier for you, make the information just a little more like absorbable, if that's a word. What other issues you want to see, what other things you want to be more informed about. Just let me know. I have all of the sources of everything that I've gone over today are going to be down below. As always, do your research. You look up stuff. Don't take my word for everything. I'm here to give you as much as I possibly can, but in the end, it's always up to you to do whatever you need to do to really come to that conclusion. I just want to be a little step toward the right direction for you. Hit subscribe down below if you haven't already. There's a little bell there that's going to tell you whenever I upload a new video. I hope to do this at least a couple times a month. Once a week would be awesome, but I do have a job and a life, and this is kind of hard. I love it, but it's kind of hard. Again, thanks for stopping by. You will also see my social media handles here on the next screen if you're interested in following me on any other platform if you're not sick of me already. But I hope you guys have a great week, day, whenever you're seeing this. I don't know when you're seeing this. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.